What if you could double your harvests without doubling your effort? Indigenous tribes have long known the secret to growing more food using special plants that work in harmony with nature. From natural fertilizers to companion plants that protect and enhance growth, here are the 20 plants that are the secret weapons that tribes rely on. 1. Marigold. Marigolds might look like they are just there to pretty up a garden, but don't be fooled. These fiery orange and yellow blooms are tough little warriors in disguise. When tribal farmers plant marigolds around their crops, they are not just going for visual appeal. They are actually setting up a defense system that works around the clock. No sprays, no chemicals, no fuss. Beneath the soil, something remarkable is happening. The roots of marigolds release natural compounds that are downright deadly to harmful nematodes, microscopic worms that love to munch on plant roots. These pests can quietly destroy crops from underground, but marigolds stop them in their tracks. What's amazing is that while the nematodes are wiped out, the surrounding crops remain completely unharmed. It's like marigolds are running their own underground security patrol, and they do it all for free. But the marigold's protection doesn't stop below the surface. Above ground, their strong, sharp scent acts like a natural bug repellent. Aphids, beetles, whiteflies, many of the usual suspects in the insect world, can't stand the smell. One whiff of a marigold, and they are off looking for easier targets. This makes marigolds a sort of living fence, forming a fragrant barrier that keeps flying pests from zeroing in on your veggies. Generations of tribal farmers have known this trick well. They pass the knowledge down, teaching younger farmers how to line the edges of their gardens or tuck marigolds between rows of crops like beans, squash, or corn. In many communities, planting marigolds isn't just tradition, it's a smart strategy. One elder from central Mexico shared that once they began surrounding their cornfields with thick borders of marigolds, their yields jumped significantly. The pests that usually swarmed young shoots stayed away entirely, sparing the crops and saving the farmers time and energy. Beyond their pest-fighting superpowers, marigolds also attract pollinators like bees and butterflies, adding another boost to plant productivity. So not only do they protect the garden, they help it thrive. Second, Tithonia. Tithonia may look like just another cheerful wildflower lighting up roadsides with its blazing orange petals, but dig a little deeper and you will find it's anything but ordinary. For tribal farmers across Africa, especially in regions like Western Kenya, Tithonia isn't just admired for its looks. It's a soil superhero, a fast-growing, low-cost, all-natural fertilizer source that's changing the way people farm. When farmers cut down the thick, leafy stems of Tithonia and mix them into the soil before planting, they are setting off what they call the green bomb. Why that name? Because within days, the plants around it explode with growth. That's thanks to a hefty dose of essential nutrients, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, all locked inside Tithonia's lush leaves. As those leaves decompose, they release these nutrients in a form that's easy for crops to absorb, giving young seedlings a powerful start without any synthetic fertilizers. What really sets Tithonia apart is its ability to grow where many other plants can't. It thrives on poor, depleted soils that have been worn out by years of farming or erosion. Its deep roots reach far below the surface to pull up hidden nutrients that other plants can't access, concentrating them in its leaves. So when it's harvested and used as green manure, it's like recycling nutrients from deep underground and returning them to the topsoil. This miracle plant has been a game changer in parts of Africa. In Western Kenya, for example, tribal farmers who began mixing chopped Tithonia leaves into the soil around their maize fields noticed dramatic results. Many saw their yields double within a single season. And the best part? No chemical fertilizers, no expensive supplies, just the power of nature and a little local know-how. Beyond boosting soil fertility, Tithonia's rapid growth makes it a renewable resource that's always ready for another round. Cut it back, let it regrow, and harvest again. It's an endless cycle of growth and generosity. Plus, its bright flowers attract bees, butterflies, and other pollinators, adding even more value to the farm ecosystem. So while Tithonia might not have the name recognition of other crops, tribal farmers know better. It's not just a flower, it's a fertilizer factory, a soil saver, and a quiet revolution growing right in the fields. 3. Vetiver grass. When tribal farmers plant rows of vetiver grass around their gardens, they are creating living walls that stop problems before they start. This unassuming grass might not look like much, but its roots are something else entirely. They plunge straight down into the soil up to 15 feet deep, forming a dense underground network that holds soil firmly in place. When heavy rains come, farms protected by vetiver don't wash away. The deep roots also form barriers that prevent weeds from spreading underground, creating a natural boundary that keeps unwanted plants from invading valuable growing space. Vetiver's powers don't stop with controlling erosion and weeds. The grass grows in tight clumps that create physical barriers against pests that would otherwise walk right into garden plots. Tribal farmers in India and across Southeast Asia have used vetiver borders for centuries, noting that gardens protected this way produce nearly twice as much food with half the work. The grass also has a pleasant, earthy scent that many insects avoid, adding another layer of protection. Plant it once and forget about it, explained one tribal elder from northern Thailand. The vetiver works while you sleep, keeping your soil where it belongs and the weeds where they belong, far from your food plants. Čtvrtá chaya. In the hot, dry regions of Mexico and Central America, tribal communities treasure chaya as a plant that keeps on giving when everything else fails. This remarkable bush can reach up to 20 feet tall and produces edible leaves year-round, even through the most brutal droughts when other crops wither and die. Tribal families simply walk outside and snap off a handful of fresh leaves whenever they need them, creating a continuous food supply that requires almost no maintenance. The nutritional value is off the charts too. Chaya leaves contain more protein, calcium, iron, and vitamins than almost any other leafy green. Once established, a single bush can produce nutritious leaves for over 15 years with zero care, surviving conditions that would kill most vegetable plants in days. Tribal farmers often plant chaya bushes around the edges of their gardens, creating edible privacy screens that double as emergency food when other crops fail. 5. Tagetes minuta. The wild marigold doesn't draw attention with flashy flowers like its garden cousin. Instead, it works its magic below the surface, where tribal farmers in South America have discovered it's like a cleaning crew for sick soil. When they plant Tagetes minuta in fields that have been struggling with pests and diseases, something remarkable happens in just one growing season. The plant's roots release compounds that kill harmful nematodes, fungi, and bacteria that would otherwise attack crop roots. These natural chemicals seep through the soil, creating a sanitized growing environment that stays clean long after the wild marigold plants are removed. Andean farmers have a special approach to using this plant. They grow entire fields of wild marigold for a season, then chop the plants down and work them into the soil before planting their food crops. The results are often dramatic, with potato and corn yields sometimes doubling in fields treated this way. The oils in the plant also repel many insects, creating multiple layers of protection. 6. Pigeon pea. Tribes across India and Africa wouldn't dream of planting a garden without including pigeon peas, and for good reason. This unassuming bush is like hiring a full-time garden helper that works for free. As it grows, the pigeon pea pulls nitrogen from the air and fixes it into the soil through special nodules on its roots, essentially manufacturing its own fertilizer. This nitrogen boost feeds neighbouring plants, making corn, millet and vegetables grow taller and produce more food. The plant's sturdy stems and thick foliage also create perfect dappled shade that protects more delicate crops from the scorching midday sun. The benefits don't stop there. Pigeon peas grow into dense bushes that form living fences around garden plots, keeping out wandering animals and marking property boundaries. And all this while still producing protein-rich peas that can be harvested over several months. Tribal farmers in Uganda often plant pigeon peas in rows between their main crops, creating a system where one plant supports another. In essence, the pigeon pea works 3 jobs at once. It feeds the soil, feeds some families, and protects my plants. What more can they ask from one seed? 7th, lemongrass. When tribal farmers plant thick borders of lemongrass around their gardens, they're setting up a scented security system that keeps unwanted visitors away. The intense citrus aroma that makes lemongrass so delicious in cooking is actually a powerful natural repellent that mosquitoes, ants, and many crop-eating insects simply cannot stand. The sharp smell masks the scent of valuable food crops, confusing pests that rely on smell to find their next meal. In parts of Southeast Asia and Africa, families plant lemongrass specifically to create mosquito-free zones around their homes and gardens, making outdoor work safer and more pleasant. What makes lemongrass particularly valuable is how it doubles as both protection and product. While it's busy repelling pests and even snakes from garden areas, it's also growing tasty stalks that can be harvested regularly for cooking, tea and medicine. Tribal communities in Thailand and Vietnam plant lemongrass in strategic lines that block crawling insects from reaching garden beds, creating aromatic barriers that work day and night. Yadinchi Muchuna. When tribal farmers in parts of Africa and Central America want to reclaim a field that's been overrun with weeds, they reach for mucuna seeds. This remarkable climbing plant grows with incredible speed, sending out long vines that quickly form a living blanket over everything in their path. As the thick mat of mucuna leaves spreads across the ground, it blocks sunlight from reaching weeds below, effectively smothering them without any digging or chemical sprays. Within weeks, even the toughest weeds begin to die off, leaving behind soil that's ready for planting and remarkably free of weed seeds. The true genius of mucuna becomes clear when farmers cut down the vines and leave them on the soil surface. As the plant material breaks down, it releases nitrogen and other nutrients that had been fixed in the plant tissues, essentially creating a rich, natural fertilizer exactly where it's needed. Tribal farmers in Benin have developed a rotating system where they grow mucuna for just a few months to clear weeds and build soil fertility, then plant corn or other staple crops that thrive in the newly revitalized soil. 9th, basil. Tribal farmers don't just grow basil for its delicious leaves, they strategically place it throughout their gardens as a secret weapon against pests. The strong aroma released by basil's leaves contains compounds that mask the scent of valuable crops, essentially making them invisible to many insects that rely on smell to find their favorite foods. When tomato plants are surrounded by basil, for example, the tomato hornworm moth can't detect the tomato's scent signal, so it flies right past without laying its destructive eggs. It's like hanging up a scent smokescreen that hides valuable plants in plain sight. What makes basil particularly effective is how it works differently against different pests. For some insects, the smell is simply confusing, making it harder to find host plants. For others, like mosquitoes and flies, basil's aroma is actively repellent, driving them away from the area entirely. Indigenous gardeners in many parts of Asia and South America have learned exactly which crops benefit most from basil's protection, creating planting patterns that maximize this effect. Patau de cassava. Around the edges of tribal gardens across Africa and South America, You will often find rows of cassava plants standing tall, like green sentinels. These aren't just random plantings. They're carefully positioned to create living barriers that serve multiple purposes at once. The large, palm-like leaves and sturdy stems of cassava plants form dense walls that block larger animals from entering garden areas. Even hungry goats and cattle tend to walk around rather than through established cassava borders, protecting valuable inner crops from being trampled or eaten. This living fence grows denser each month, requiring no maintenance while silently guarding the garden. What makes cassava borders truly remarkable is that they don't just protect food, they are food. The starchy root tubers of cassava can be harvested throughout the year as needed, providing a reliable source of calories even when other crops have been depleted. Tribal families often plant cassava borders as an insurance policy against hunger, knowing they will have something to eat even if other crops fail. Yazdurma. When tribal farmers in India and Africa talk about neem trees, they often pat their trunks with the same affection most people reserve for beloved pets. These trees earn their special status by serving as round-the-clock pest control centres for entire villages. Every single part of the neem tree contains compounds that insects absolutely hate. The leaves, bark, seeds, and even the roots all produce chemicals that disrupt feeding and growth cycles of more than 200 different crop pests. Farmers collect the fallen leaves and crush them into a simple spray that keeps bugs off vegetables without using a drop of store-bought chemicals. Others toss neem leaves directly into their compost piles, creating fertilizer that not only feeds plants but also protects them from soil-dwelling pests. What makes neem truly remarkable is how smart its protection system works. It doesn't kill beneficial insects like bees and butterflies, only the ones that damage crops. The compounds in neem don't act like typical poisons. Instead, they mess with insects' hormones and make them forget to eat or mate, or molt properly. In parts of rural India, farmers plant neem trees at the corners of their fields, creating a protective boundary that gets stronger each year as the trees mature. Onikinchi crotalaria. Tribal farmers across Africa call crotalaria their underground healer because of its remarkable ability to cure sick soil. When fields start producing weak, yellowing plants with knotty, deformed roots, experienced farmers know the invisible enemy. Microscopic root knot nematodes have invaded the soil. Their solution isn't chemicals, but rather yellow-flowering crotalaria plants that act like soil doctors. The roots of crotalaria release compounds that are deadly to these destructive nematodes, but completely harmless to crops and beneficial soil life. Even more impressive, the plant works deep underground, where sprays and powders can't reach, clearing out these pests down to the deepest root zones. While crotalaria fights invisible enemies below, it works double duty above ground as a nitrogen factory. Like other legumes, its roots host special bacteria that pull nitrogen from the air and convert it to plant food. When the crotalaria plants are later chopped down and worked into the soil, all that stored nitrogen becomes available to the next crop. Tribal farmers in Kenya often plant entire fields with crotalaria for one season, effectively clearing out root pests while rebuilding soil fertility at the same time. 13. Sweet potato. Tribal farmers in the Pacific Islands don't waste time pulling weeds. They simply plant sweet potatoes and let nature handle the problem. Within weeks of planting, sweet potato vines race outward in all directions, spreading a thick, living mulch that weeds simply cannot penetrate. The broad, shade-casting leaves form such a dense mat that sunlight never reaches the soil surface, effectively starving any weed seeds that try to sprout. This living carpet also traps moisture that would otherwise evaporate in the tropical heat, keeping garden beds damp and fertile even during dry spells. The vines grow so quickly that once established, a sweet potato patch becomes almost maintenance-free. The real magic of this system becomes clear at harvest time, when pulling up the smothering vines reveals not just weed-free soil, but also a bounty of nutritious tubers hidden below. While busy suppressing weeds and conserving water for months, the plants were secretly packing away starches and vitamins underground. Tribal communities in Papua New Guinea have perfected this system, planting sweet potatoes as companion crops alongside taller plants like corn or yams. On Durdenjutaro. In places where most crops would drown and rot, tribal farmers bring in their secret weapon, taro. This sturdy plant thrives in waterlogged soil where most vegetables would quickly suffocate and die. Tribal communities throughout the Pacific Islands, Southeast Asia, and parts of Africa have turned land that most farmers would write off as useless. Swampy depressions, areas that flood seasonally, or spots with heavy shade, into productive food-growing spaces. The large elephant ear leaves of taro plants rise above muddy water, converting sunlight into starchy corms that can feed families for months. By utilising these typically wasted spaces, tribes effectively expand their growing area without clearing additional land. What's truly remarkable about taro farming is how it transforms problem areas into solutions. The same wet spots that would ruin other crops become perfect taro patches that produce food year after year with minimal maintenance. In parts of Hawaii, elaborate taro systems called lo'i have been producing food continuously for over 1,000 years, with the oldest patches still feeding families today. These systems are often positioned to catch runoff water from higher ground, trapping not just moisture, but also nutrient-rich sediment that would otherwise wash away. 15th, amaranth. When tribal farmers in Mexico and South America want crops that work extra hard for every bit of space, they plant amaranth. This remarkable plant refuses to choose between being a grain crop or a vegetable. It happily produces both from the same plant. The young leaves can be harvested repeatedly as a nutritious green vegetable packed with vitamins and minerals, while the brilliant purple, red or gold seed heads develop into protein-rich grain. A single amaranth plant can yield over 50,000 tiny seeds, each containing more protein than an equal amount of wheat or rice. In areas where crop failure means hunger, amaranth serves as living insurance that keeps producing food even when other plants give up. Another interesting thing that makes amaranth a true garden champion is its unstoppable determination to grow no matter how poor the soil or how little rain falls. Where corn might wilt and beans might wither, amaranth keeps pushing upward, sometimes reaching over 6 feet tall. Even in harsh conditions, its fast growth helps it outcompete weeds that would choke other crops, saving farmers countless hours of weeding. 16. Hot pepper. The fiery bite that makes hot peppers exciting in small doses becomes a powerful defensive weapon when tribal farmers plant them strategically around their gardens. Many wildlife pests that would happily devour other crops, from monkeys and squirrels to deer and rabbits, take one taste of hot pepper leaves or fruits and quickly learn to stay away. The capsaicin that creates the burning sensation on human tongues works even more intensely on most animals, creating a natural boundary that needs no maintenance. Tribes from Central America to Southeast Asia plant dense rows of hot peppers around the perimeters of their gardens, creating spicy borders that wildlife won't cross. The clever dual-purpose nature of hot pepper borders becomes apparent when it's time to harvest. While protecting more valuable crops from damage, the pepper plants themselves produce generous yields of fruits that serve as both food and medicine. The same compounds that deter pests also preserve food in hot climates where refrigeration isn't available. Tribal communities in the Amazon basin often plant complete rings of hot peppers around their garden plots, with taller, spicier varieties saving the most valuable food plants at the center. 17. Sunflowers. To the untrained eye, sunflowers might just be tall, happy-looking plants that follow the sun. But for tribal farmers in North America, they carry powerful garden allies with a whole list of jobs. When arranged in rings around gardens, sunflowers act like living watchtowers, standing tall, scanning the skies, and supporting a thriving ecosystem beneath their golden heads. Their thick stalks double as trellises for crops like beans and squash, letting vines climb upward instead of sprawling out and stealing space. Their big, bright blooms don't just look good. They are like neon signs for pollinators, drawing in bees and butterflies that help fertilize fruiting plants and boost yields. At the same time, sunflowers quietly host armies of helpful insects that crawl up and down the stems, picking off pests before they get a chance to damage anything. With their wide leaves and towering height, sunflowers also provide just the right amount of shifting shade. They shield tender crops during the peak of midday heat, keeping soil cooler and helping preserve moisture, something especially valuable during dry spells. But maybe the cleverest trick of all. Sunflowers lure in the bad bugs. Many pest insects find sunflowers more appealing than the vegetables themselves, especially beetles and caterpillars. By planting sunflowers around the edges of a field or garden, tribal farmers create decoy zones where pests gather, far from where the real crops are growing. It's a simple, elegant strategy passed down through generations. 18. Jack bean. When tribal farmers in Central America face fields riddled with disease and pest problems, they bring in the heavy artillery, jack bean. This robust legume grows quickly even in the worst soil, sending out vines covered with large leaves that soon blanket entire fields. But the real action happens underground, where jack bean roots release powerful compounds that act like natural fumigants, suppressing harmful fungi, bacteria, and nematodes that would otherwise destroy crop roots. As it grows, jack bean effectively sterilizes the soil of many common diseases that plague important food crops like corn, beans, and squash. The thick growth also smothers any existing weeds, creating a clean slate for the next planting season. After jack bean has worked its purifying magic for a season, tribal farmers chop down the entire plant and work it into the soil, where it delivers a second round of benefits. Like other legumes, jack bean fixes atmospheric nitrogen in root nodules, but at much higher levels than most similar plants. As the chopped plants decompose, they release this stored nitrogen along with other nutrients, creating a rich growing medium from what was previously problem soil. Maya communities in particular have used jack bean rotations for centuries to rejuvenate tired garden plots without chemicals or long fallow periods. 19th, moringa. In the dry stretches of India and Africa, tribal communities have a clever gardening hack, planting moringa trees around their gardens. But these aren't just any trees. They are like nature's solar-powered fertilizer machines that never take a day off. With their feathery, nutrient-packed leaves, moringa trees are little green powerhouses. The leaves are loaded with protein, vitamins, and minerals that not only nourish people, but also work wonders for the soil. Here's how it goes. Farmers regularly trim the fast-growing branches and let the leaves fall straight onto the soil. It's like tossing a multivitamin directly into the garden bed. Instant green manure that delivers nutrients right where crops need them. Others take a detour, feeding the leaves to chickens and goats. The animals get a health boost, and their enriched droppings become next-level compost for the garden. It's a win-win-win cycle of goodness. And these trees aren't shy about growing either. Some can shoot up more than 15 feet in just a year. That means there's always a fresh supply of leafy goodness ready to fuel both gardens and livestock. But wait, there's more. Moringa trees don't just feed, they also protect. Their light, airy canopies cast just enough shade to cool the soil and reduce water evaporation without plunging the garden into darkness. This delicate balance helps sensitive seedlings survive scorching sun and tough droughts. Smart farmers often space out moringa trees across their fields, creating mini microclimates where crops can flourish even under harsh conditions. It's like setting up shady little plant spas all over the farm. In regions where every drop of water counts and every crop matters, the moringa tree has earned its nickname, the miracle tree. Dvadziate nasturtium. Meet the nasturtium, part flower, part pest trap, part salad topping. When tribal gardeners plant cheerful clusters of these vibrant blooms in the corners of their plots, they are not just adding a splash of colour, they are launching a full-blown bug control operation, no pesticides required. Here's the deal. Nasturtiums give off scents and produce compounds that certain garden pests just can't resist. Aphids, whiteflies, beetles, you name it. They flock to these plants like it's an all-you-can-eat buffet. But that's exactly the point. Instead of chewing up your tomatoes or attacking your leafy greens, these pests settle on the nasturtiums and stay there. That's why indigenous gardeners in South America often call them sacrifice plants. Nasturtiums take one for the team, drawing the bugs away so your main crops can grow in peace. And they don't stop there. Nasturtiums are multitaskers. While they are busy playing bug bait, they're also offering up edible treats. The leaves have a zesty, peppery kick. The flowers add flair to salads and the seed pods. They can be pickled into a tangy snack that's often compared to capers. So even while they are luring in pests, they are also putting food on the table. Plus, their wide-spreading vines do a great job of covering bare soil. This helps lock in moisture and block out weeds, kind of like a natural mulch with benefits. Now we would love to hear from you. Have you ever used companion planting techniques like these? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update.